Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to Explain It to Me. Today, we're going to talk about Wandavision, episode 6 of season 1. With me, as always, is my good friend Ashton. How are you doing, Ashton?
I'm good. How are you?
And this time, we have special guests from a certain point of view. Molly Damon, welcome to the channel and the stream. Jake Berlin and Brian Alvesino. How's everyone doing?
Good. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, Thank you for having me.
I knew I had to get Molly on the show.
I'm shocked you went after saying my last name. That was bold.
I went for it. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right too.
So, I mean, you know the show, but I want to talk to Brian and Jake about your history with Marvel, the MCU. What's your level of fandom like before we dive into WandaVision here?
Brian, should kick us off.
I would say definitely above your average fan. I wouldn't say like master of everything, like the ones that literally live, breathe, die Marvel, but I would say pretty decent. I would put myself above just a casual fan for sure.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I'm in no means a comic master when it comes to Marvel. They have so many issues in comic books, and it's a long history. It's just hard to keep track of. But I've dived more and more into it ever since the movies have come out. And so, Brian and I, we with a big group of us, we go to every MCU movie, the first showing that is possible that comes out in theaters when we were able to. And so we're definitely, when it comes to movies, above average, but comic book history, it's more so just kind of what you pick and choose and try to catch up on from over the years, I guess, because it's such a long history.
And how have you both been enjoying WandaVision?
It's fantastic.
Obsessed.
Beyond anything I could have hoped for a Marvel TV show, like beyond.
Well, and it's funny because the first 2 or 3 episodes, there was that group of people who were like, I like it, but I don't really know how I feel about it. And knowing what Marvel is capable of, we're sitting back just being like, just wait. Like they're gonna show you guys and prove to you that this can really work in this type of, setting and story. And every week they just continue to pile on, be like, yep, we told you.
What is it about the show that's really like grabbing you?
There's no bad episodes, first off. And there's always something. And I don't think I've ever watched a show where I've gone so back and forth on my theories.
Yeah,
ever.
That's the big thing, is that you never know what's happening.
I've literally been like, okay, so that person's a bad guy. And then the next episode goes, oh, no, that person's definitely a good guy. And then you watch the next one, you're like, is that person even important? Like, it's literally like, that's literally what I feel like I'm doing every single week. And I love it.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the way that they tell the story. That's just kind of how I grade what I like things, like whether it's film or television, how they tell a story. But I've also become increasingly obsessed with Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda. Like the way that she performs this character, and it just seems like each episode they give her something new to do, and then she just knocks it out of the park every single time. On top of what Paul Bettany is doing as well, and all these other characters, but a lot of it has to do with the way the story is, and also Elizabeth Olsen and how centered it is around her, and just how phenomenal she is.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Alex, about how they are just like really leaning into any possible theory that could be connected to comic book stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously nerds like us are going to be like, well, could it be this person or this person or this thing? And they're just leaning into it so hard. And I love that.
The director is literally sitting here with strings on their fingers, just going, we're going to pull this one, but it's not going to be the one. We're going to pull this one now, but it's not going to be the one. And they're just toying with us the entire time.
And they rub it in your face by putting it on a whiteboard saying, I bet these are the ones you're thinking.
Very true.
I really loved that Jimmy Woo is kind of like the audience surrogate, asking all the questions that we have.
100%.
So let's get into the episode itself. Was everyone expecting? I was surprised by the Malcolm in the Middle style credits and introduction. That was not the way I thought the show was going to go.
I didn't think it was going to. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I thought that was a good choice now that the kids are a lot more involved, just because it started out kind of like from their point of view and they're kind of like talking to the camera. I thought that was pretty smart.
I didn't expect it. Like, I mean, when you think about it in 90s, you're like, okay, yeah, that was a pretty big show. But like it caught me off guard. I was like, oh, this is what they're starting off with. Okay. I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it just because ever since the kids have entered the show, it's clearly now they're like the second biggest part of the show. Outside of what's happening with Wanda and Vision, it's now Wanda and Vision and then the kids. And so to put them front and center from the very beginning kind of made sense. And an episode that was towards the end, obviously, is very important for them. And like that comment I just said, if you listen to the lyrics are extremely important.
I was about to say, this time we didn't go back and listen. We did that in the last episode and we forgot to do it this time. So what did the
actually
lyrics
wrote
say?
them out?
Yeah, so Brian, they are
You
like,
nerds.
It's
Yeah.
the lyrics are crazy relevant to what's happening inside the show. But yeah, I'll let Brian take that over.
I would say that might have been the biggest clue
Mm-hmm.
in the episode. Do you want me to read the lyrics?
I have
like
no idea
some
what
of
they are.
them.
So
Yeah.
can you
it
sing
says-
them though?
No.
Yeah, please sing.
It's not even a song. Like,
don't
it's
wanna
literally
try
someone just saying it. Don't try to fight the chaos. Don't question what you've done. The game can try to play us. Don't let it stop the fun. Some days it's all confusion, easy come and easy go. But if it's all illusion, sit back and enjoy the show. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going through each distorted day. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going through. Though there may be no way of knowing who's coming by to play.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's
Those are like devil words right there.
Well, there were a lot of like little nods. To
Yeah.
Speaking of the devil, I loved that Pietro literally calls the kids Satan's spawn or something like that.
Demon
Spawn, yeah.
Spawn.
And it's funny because there's so many moments in the show that can be considered either just like a nice little call out, an Easter egg, or something that's super important. I have a feeling that was washed over so quickly because it's going to be super important in the next couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
Well, so the history of the kids in the comic books is that when they first came to be, they were essentially a splinter of Mephisto's soul.
Mm-hmm.
And Demon Spawn essentially is saying, whether or not it's true or not, if they adapt it, that they are literally the children of the demon, the devil, and possibly Mephisto, or an incarnation of Mephisto in the show. And we could see that happen in the next couple episodes. Because they're time jumping so quickly with their age, it could happen a lot quicker than it did in the comic books.
Were you guys surprised to see Billy and Tommy actually use their powers already?
It's weird because thinking of it beforehand, I was like, oh, they'll probably wait. But then as I was watching it, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Just the way that they were aging so fast. And like the abilities seem like it's a thing where if they're doing something, it just happens. Like, for example, Pietro was zooming his nephew around. And so he's going to kind of catch on to that. And then when something happens to, Daddy Vision, Wiccan's like, now my powers are here. It's just kind of like by an experience. So I wasn't surprised, but I guess I just wasn't expecting it from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was fist pumping because last week I was joking about how they were going to run around and steal all the candy, and then they did exactly that. It's like,
There you go.
yes.
That was a great scene too. Them smashing the pumpkins and everything too. That was great.
I was stoked
Uncle
to see
Pietro is the best.
Uncle P.
I was stoked to see the old Quicksilver costume.
All of them.
All of them,
All
yeah.
the old
I
costumes.
love
Well,
it.
we saw because we saw
wings.
Wanda and Vision in the trailer,
The
but
hair
we didn't
wings
see
that we saw
Quicksilver.
were great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the hair.
Is that his comic hair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just made me think of Chandler from Friends.
Yeah.
His 80s hair.
The costumes
all
were
this stuff-
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all this stuff the past few weeks, like we've kept talking about Mephisto and like whether or not they're gonna go through with this, and now it seems more and more like they might. So Ashton, what do you think about that?
I mean, I still think that that's what's going to happen. That it's like it really seems like they're pointing towards there being somebody that's like kind of pushing Wanda. You know, like it seems like the Hex is Wanda, but maybe someone else is kind of like pushing her in that direction, basically, or like pulling strings behind the scenes.
It's weird that she keeps saying like she doesn't remember how this started or how it happened. So we were talking about this earlier, Alex. Maybe it is something where she kind of made a deal with the devil to get these kids and to get Vision back, but then like her memory is like really fuzzy, and all of a sudden she's in this like town that is basically her dream life.
Yeah, I mean they're pushing everything with Monica so hard that Monica's on Wanda's side. That I don't think that. I think Wanda has some blame here, but she definitely seems like she's being manipulated.
Yeah, I mean, there's even kind of like some clues that give that vibe. Like, what's his name? Oh my God, Herb. It seemed like he was talking to someone. Like every time he said, "Oh no, now they smash the pumpkins," then they would smash the pumpkins. Oh no, they silly string the kids. Silly string the kids. And then he even said at one point, "Do you want me to change anything?"
That's the line.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he almost sounded like he was her like personal assistant or something, or like he was managing her basically.
Yeah. So
I guess from that I got like an Agnes vibe of like I'm just trying to play along, but yeah,
I think certain
might be
people
right.
know. I think certain people might be in the know or like kind of like not affected by it.
Okay, let's jump to Agnes. Oh, no, go ahead, Ashton.
I was going to say my impression, especially as of this episode, but also from the previous ones, like when Agnes and Herb were having the conversation with Vision, is that maybe they are actually like directly under control of whoever's pushing Wanda, and they're there to kind of keep her in line, but maybe they're hoping that Wanda will actually help them get free. Maybe that's, where it could end up going. But
because I want to talk about Agnes because but every week I more and more am like, yeah, you start off thinking she's bad, but I'm like, I think I'm on her side. It seems like she was trying to escape and couldn't, and like Vision had to unlock her mind, and I would have thought that him doing that would have tipped him off to something.
I think she's kind of a red herring at this point, where it's like you're so concerned on who she is that like she'll be something, but maybe not to the importance of what we're thinking. Like everyone's like Agnes is probably the one doing it, and blah 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 blah, and then you're like, oh well, maybe not.
Yeah, I still
go ahead.
No, that's all right. You go.
I was just going to say that I agree with the Agnes kind of situation of thinking that she may not be who we had originally thought. But the thing that I always go back to in this scene is she had said, Wanda is doing this. The entire time in the show so far, they've been saying her. And so that makes me think that she's trying to tiptoe around it and make Vision believe that it's Wanda that's really doing this, and said it's actually her or someone else. And so there's still a big part of me, a big chunk that believes that she is who we think she is, or at least some kind of combination of that. I'm even starting to lean that maybe she may be a combination of Agatha Harkness, Mephisto / Nightmare, where she might be like the legit person that could be controlling everything, and they're going to combine these characters into one character, and it's Agnes. But it's interesting what that whole thing with when she said Wanda and not her. Is she telling the truth, or is she just trying to make Vision believe that it is Wanda to have them go after each other or fight or something?
Or trying to expand it? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do we know if she if she actually expanded it versus just shifting it in that direction?
I think it was maybe implied that it was expanding, but
it looked like it even got taller.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish it was a bird's eye view shot, because I would have loved to have really seen the legit hexagon shape and then it really expand. But the shot that it was really cool anyway. But that's just me.
I love that it turned their base into basically like a carnival.
It was like American Horror Story, the carnival one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Freak show.
Well, and that really like changed the situation with S.W.O.R.D. A lot more than I expected things to change with them right now. You know, like I sort of figured they'd sit there observing for a little longer.
Was anyone else cheering and hoping that Hayward would get sucked in? I was like, get him, get him.
100%.
What do we think Darcy's going to be?
Yeah.
I think she's going to be a waitress in the diner, like Two Broke Girls.
But I saw a theory that people are thinking she might actually turn into a superhero. Because if there's a poster of her, of like, you know, those posters of the characters, they have all the TVs in front of them and they show different pictures.
Oh yeah.
I guess one of the shots is like a symbol, and people have been comparing it to a hero in the comics. That she might
be a member of the circus, like if she is like, you know how
maybe, like
Batman Forever
she just turns into a character for just the series or something, and we kind of see Darcy as like this superhero or like some kind of acrobatic in the circus or something. But that might be something that we see in the next couple episodes. It'd be interesting.
Like I wonder if it's just a nod, kind of the way in Batman Forever the Robin outfit was originally like a trapeze artist thing. But I mean, that would be interesting if Darcy, someone who doesn't have superpowers, for some reason Wanda shifted her to be someone with superheroes or powers in this reality.
Well, Monica's going to have powers. That's blatantly obvious at this point.
For sure.
So what are her powers in the comics?
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, really? Usually you
Ashton. You 3-5 out.
I can explain.
I've looked it up, but it has something to do with.
She kind of basically is kind of like she manipulates energy and light and things along those lines. Hence why the X-ray machine came back blank. So stuff along those lines. Ashton, if you want to expand.
Yeah, so her superhero name is Photon, and basically she was exposed to this energy, and afterwards she's now able to turn her body into energy, and become like any form of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum, but also with like made up comic energies too. And it's like, but she has to see it first. It's not like she can just imagine energy doing a certain thing. She has to actually like observe it for a while, and then she's like, okay, I understand how that form of energy works now. I can become that now. And she can only become one type at a time, but she can switch it to different energies really quickly. But she also can't stay that way permanently. And there's certain times when people have been able to like make her shift back to her physical form. So
now she's not a mutant, right?
No, she's more like the Fantastic Four, where she was like exposed to some scientific phenomenon and then got powers afterwards.
Like a Hulk, gamma radiation is now you're like that type of situation.
While the word mutant just came up, I had a crazy thought about the end of this episode, because we don't know how far the hex is going to expand, right? Like what's going to happen? Like say for example, just a theory here. What if the hex reaches the entire state of New Jersey and all these people are hexed? Could this be the creation of mutants in the MCU?
That's what I was getting at. And it's something we've discussed in the past few weeks.
All mutants are going to come from New Jersey.
Look, I understand. I understand it's weird, but what if Wanda, a mutant in the comics, is the reason why we have mutants in the MCU? And it's not a multiverse thing. It's literally what's happening right now in WandaVision.
Yeah, I think, Ashton, was that what you were saying, like the opposite of what happened in the House of M?
Yeah, there were some like theories that Wanda's going to do like a no comma more mutants sort of moment where she actually makes mutants instead of removing their powers, or at least activates people that would have had the X gene. But I don't know, maybe either that, or maybe whenever we get around to the hex actually like cracking, maybe it actually bursts and there's like a wave that goes over the whole planet or something.
Yeah. Do we think in the next episode we're gonna see what's it, the astrophysicist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they said
for it this time, and then please stand by.
The aerospace guy.
They said, what did they say? He'll be here in an hour.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we have to meet him over the ridge, is what she says. Yeah.
I thought they were going to get to it this episode.
I
and
know.
they just
Of course,
stopped.
Yeah.
they're gonna make you wait. They're probably going to make us wait until the last episode or something too. They're going to find some reason to make us wait even longer.
Okay, so it's been another week. So who does everyone think it is?
I
I
still
swear
think
to
it's
God.
going to be Sue Storm.
I keep hearing that one more and more. I swear, if John Krasinski walks,
I'm gonna
in,
lose it.
which would be interesting because I keep hearing that the next episode is going to be The Office themed,
Yeah, and he would be in an Office episode.
which would be ironic.
Well, but we already have Jim Halpert on the show already, so
That's true.
Jimmy Woo, yeah.
Yeah, but
What if they recreate that Spider-Man meme?
yeah.
just
Yeah.
point?
Yes.
Oh man, I don't know. It would blow my mind if they put Reed Richards in this, just right off the bat, like, because we didn't even have like 100% confirmation that Fantastic Four was going forward until like a little while ago, because they said, oh yeah, it's in the works at Comic-Con, but like there was no plan. They just recently said it. So like it would kind of be a boss move for them to just be like, oh yeah, here's your person too.
Well, and I was out with Brian and I were talking about this when it first happened, and I made the point that the reason why it makes sense to me is that we've heard so much about WandaVision being connected to Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man 3. Okay. And Spider-Man 3 is being directed by John Watts, which he is also directing the new version of Fantastic Four in the MCU. And all of these are connected to each other. And so for WandaVision, which is connected to a John Watts movie, who is bringing in the Fantastic Four to drop a Fantastic Four character in the show, it would make sense from, a director standpoint and like a executive standpoint to do that, because your director is probably involved with the show a little bit if you are bringing in someone like Reed Richards.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be a good guy. It could be Doctor Doom. It could be, he could be it.
Yeah.
I hadn't even
still
really
think-
thought about it being him specifically.
I kind of like what we talked about last week. Jason Edmund threw out the idea that it could be, I forget, it's Sue Storm or Reed Richards' father, like someone who would be
Sue Storm's father was the one that we
Okay.
had talked about.
someone who would be tangential to the story, but not like a major character that they would have to cast right away, but someone that would still bridge the gap.
A blatant tease for what's coming. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
We'd also talked about maybe it being Adam Brashear and Blue Marvel. Someone like that they could start bringing in. But that doesn't have like a direct tie-in with anything that we know is coming up, but it could tie in with things that are coming up.
I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any freaking young Avengers left that they haven't thrown in there yet, because it seems like they're like, you're a young Avenger? All right, let's put you in there.
It's definitely going to be someone that we know and recognize, or like an actor that we see in a character that we're going to be like. I feel like
they've built it up too much.
Yeah, and I feel like this
And
is
by that I mean they have two lines about them, but we're all like, oh, who is it?
And Elizabeth Olsen saying like, yeah, there's a giant sized cameo in this show. Like, if this is in fact the cameo, like it has to live up to it. And there's obviously only so many options you can go with, but if it is someone we know, it legitimately is going to have to like blow our mind.
See, now I'm starting to think with that, her saying that it's someone huge Luke Skywalker level is not the actor, it's the comic book character.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a character. Yeah, that's what I meant. I think it's definitely a character.
So, because like I don't think it's going to be like, oh my god, Harrison Ford just walked in. It's going to be like, oh my god, there's Reed Richards, or oh my god, there's Sue Storm. So it's, I mean, or Doctor Doom. It would be like, that would be wild. I know people keep saying Hulkling, but I think it's rushing Hulkling.
Is it possible that she was teasing Evan Peters though?
She very well could have been. Yeah.
I think at first I was like, bummer, that's probably who she was talking about. Not bummer, but like the way it was hyped right away. I think after this episode, the fact that they mentioned the aerospace engineer again and made it blatant that whoever that is the person.
And
Also
left
that-
that as a cliffhanger. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Oh,
having Evan Peters in the episode the entire time, that doesn't feel like the cameo, right? Because a cameo is like a big drop.
Yeah,
and now
that's
he's
true.
kind of like a part of the show, and he will be going forward. So it's got to be someone who's just going to show up for a small part and like give them some kind of information or help them with something, and then go off on their way and lead down the line. It's crazy to think that it could be someone like the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, any of these characters.
Man, how cool would it be if it was Doctor Doom, but it's like you end up seeing plans for some armor that he's making, and he makes some sort of suit for Monica to wear to go in through the thing.
Because she said she needed like,
because she needs protective equipment to get through.
She said she needed like a titanium something reinforced blah 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 on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So
that'd be wild if we just see the actor, we're like, oh cool, who's that gonna be? And it's like, hi, I'm Victor Doom. And it's like,
Victor Von
that is his real
Victor
name,
Von
right?
Doom.
Victor Von Doom is a
Victor
real
Von
name.
Doom.
It's not his made up name. It's like a Doctor Strange situation.
That's his real name, yeah.
I'm gonna laugh my ass off when it ends up being Hank Pym, and he's like, drive this van through the hex.
Or if it's just Ant-Man. Hey guys. It's just like, are you kidding? Like,
wait, what?
okay.
Well, we were talking about Pietro. I do want to talk about him. Do we think that is really Pietro, or is it someone posing as Pietro? Because they're like, Wanda's suspicious. She asks him about their childhood and stuff, and he's like, you're testing me. And she's like, you're right. But I'm like, he never answered the question.
Yeah.
Like, and then later he's probing her like, yeah, but how'd you do this? Like, it seems like someone is trying to get information out of Wanda by pretending to be someone that she knows.
I don't even think he's real.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think she just like created him, because that's kind of what he basically says. He's like, you put me here, or something along those lines. And
did
then,
she?
Well,
but like, and then they talk about how he looks different, and he brings up Shangri-La, which I was like immediately Googling, and I was like, okay, that would make sense. He says like, you wouldn't want to be reminded of your grief, you know, in like a perfect place. And I thought that was cool.
Which old comics has connection to Vision.
Yeah, Vision was like like a ghost overseer of Shangri-La, and it like happened one time and then it was never mentioned again.
I basically made Molly stop talking to me about Shangri-La because I was like, save it for the show. So everyone except for me now knows what Shangri-La is. So tell me what it is.
I think that was one of those like just like Easter egg moments where it was just a mention. Because like I said, it was literally something that came about and went so quickly and was never done again in the MCU. And it could be, or not the MCU, the comics. But it was definitely a cool tease. But as far as he goes, Evan Peters, it's interesting. I think that he is definitely a character that we're gonna find out who he really is, and someone just pulling his strings. I do like the idea of him actually not even existing. But that also makes me believe that if he doesn't exist, I don't think Vision exists, because she saw the dead body like she saw the dead body of Vision too. It's interesting.
Well, I think Ashton last week was talking about probably what the ultimate choice is going to be.
Yeah, like I have a feeling that in the end, it's basically going to be like Wanda making a choice of whether to dissolve the hex and potentially lose Vision, Quicksilver, and the twins, or leave it there and be irresponsible, or maybe, and I think that the struggle will be her figuring out a way to keep the twins and then get rid of the hex without losing them. I think she's probably going to lose Vision. I just don't really see Vision sticking around after this. But
do you think the twins will be around after this?
I think so, because I think they're setting up for for Young Avengers. I think if they do go away, then it might be something similar to the comics, where they end up getting like they reborn through other bodies or something like that, And
at that point, they can cast the people they want to for the characters. Like that's
right.
The story. So
yeah.
What are the other Young Avengers characters that are already like the Hawkeye?
So we have Kate Bishop. We
Kate
have
Bishop.
Stature, which is Scott Lang's daughter. She'll be a teenager in Ant-Man 3.
Which they recast.
Yeah, they recasted her with Catherine Newton. And then they have They have Miss Marvel coming, Wiccan and Speed, and there's one more that I'm Ironheart. They announced Ironheart as well, who are kind of like the core group. And people are speculating on Hulkling, but I don't know if that'll happen just yet.
If they do Secret Invasion, then maybe.
Yeah, that's good.
We also have America Chavez coming too.
Oh, that's right. She's in Doctor Strange too. That's right. Yeah, good point.
They announced her, but you haven't really heard anything from it.
It would be cool if they did kind of like a build up of all the TV shows, then become like a Young Avengers TV show or movie.
I think
I could see them doing that for the television shows.
I think it'd be a really cool series. It'd be like what Netflix did with Daredevil and stuff. They do Young Avengers on Disney Plus. I think that'd be really, really cool to see.
Agreed.
I think it's unavoidable at this point. Like there's too many for them to not do it, and you don't just recast Stature, the Ant-Man daughter, with Catherine Newton to not do anything. We're going to use those characters, even though, I mean, we were at one point, we're like, is Ant-Man going to even keep kind of going after this? You don't do that if you don't have plans for something out of that.
And you don't get Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop if you're not getting her for the future as well.
All right, well, then who's going to be Speed and Wiccan? Who do you...
It depends on their age. It depends on what kind of... I mean, if they're going to go for like a late teenager, early 20s like they have been so far, I mean, there's millions of people that they can... I see them going unknown, kind of like what they did with Miss Marvel and Ironheart, because they have their leads in Stature and Kate Bishop with the two big name actresses. Maybe do one big name, but I kind of see it as getting two people that we don't even know.
Well, and also they could use the Ironheart movie or Miss Marvel really to almost be like a lead-in, sort of like how, some of the Captain America movies were kind of pseudo Avengers movies because they had so many crossovers.
It's very true, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to think that there'll be unknown people because, to be honest, I'm starting to think that they're going to be whoever those people are going to show up at the end of this.
Yeah,
and those are going to be the ones that
secret cast has already happened. I agree. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not really opposed to it either because then they can kind of more concerned with the character than you are like the actor playing the character. So, yeah, I mean, 2 out of the 4 are unknowns. The America Chavez was not a person that people knew, and same with Miss Marvel. So, I mean, why not at this point?
Well, we're talking about kids.
Yeah,
what about all the kids in this episode?
I was going to ask you guys, what do you think? Do you think that Wanda just kind of like Pietro said, like kept them all sleeping, or were they not even in the hex? Like, what do we think?
I think it might have been a situation like Vision finding all those people who were frozen, where the first number of episodes were like in a central part of the town, like a certain part. And then this one kind of ventured into a different part where there were a lot more people, and she kind of woke them up because she was around them. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but it has to come back in a way, right? Like we have to know why and how.
It felt like to me almost that like the further away from Wanda you are in that town, the harder it is for her to keep everybody literally moving. So like some people were kind of just like doing these robotic things, and some people even further out are just frozen.
They just become more like props.
Yeah.
That poor couple, like that woman who was doing the lunch. Oh my God.
That was heartbreaking.
Like seeing like she's functioning and she knows what's happening, but she can't do anything else but that.
Like her mind is awake. She just can't control.
I think
I kind of got with Agnes. I was like, is she trying to escape? And then she just got too far away and like everything just shut down. And
that's what I'm starting to think.
Well, but then that was the weird thing was why did when Vision re-engaged her like, hex mind or whatever, she wasn't still she wasn't frozen at that point. She was able to turn the car around and drive back. It made me kind of think maybe Agnes was faking it or something like that.
People saying that it was all a manipulation to get Vision out of the hex and then expand it. That that seems.
And
like
with
it could be
Vision,
very
you have a little bit more playroom because he has no idea what's happening, and so Agnes doesn't have to be as tight knit as she would have to be with someone like Wanda or someone else. Like she has a little bit more of room to kind of mess up or do something like that because Vision is still trying to figure out all of these questions that are happening around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she reminds him like, "You're dead. You were an Avenger," and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, he had
and,
no idea what the Avengers were. Like that's
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, of people knowing Vision's dead, that was an interesting thing. Was that Quicksilver? He like his memories. He has seemingly unique memories that don't match up with what Wanda remembers. He has some of the memories from MCU Vision, like getting shot, but then he also has memories that if he's from another universe or if he's MCU Vision, or MCU Quicksilver, he shouldn't have because he knows that Vision's supposed to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, because that happened after MCU Quicksilver's death. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of questions about who this Quicksilver actually is.
That's why I'm like, I think he's got to be a construct of whatever is manipulating Wanda. But even that construct doesn't know what's going on. Like the fact that he is going like, hey, how'd you do this? And like, this is a far cry from just putting visions in people's heads. Like, what did you do? Like, they are trying to get information from her. But I do think that they also manipulated her and are manipulating her with Pietro.
Well, and his whole thing about like, oh, you can talk to me, you know, like that,
right.
That whole part seemed really like suspicious.
Yeah.
Someone wants something from her, or wants
kids, right?
That's been my assumption, yeah.
But if that's the case, then why are they asking questions like this?
I think now I disagree. I don't think it's the kids. I think the kids are a plus. I think they are trying to find out every little bit of how her powers work, pushing it to the max and what they can get out of it, and manipulate her to be this villain or whatever that they want, that they're hoping they can control, like one of their puppets, essentially.
Is S.W.O.R.D doing this somehow? Is this a S.W.O.R.D experiment gone wrong?
Well, we talked about maybe, is it Hayward? Is that his name?
Yeah, he's a big
Hayward isn't on it for sure.
Yeah, the fact that he wants Vision back, like, desperately, and like Darcy was finding all of those weird files on the computer about who knows what. So I think
he's tracking, and they said vibranium decay, which that's a clear indication that he's still dead. You know, that the vibranium isn't working anymore. And that's tracking him.
I think Hayward put something in Vision.
Yes,
lured Scarlet Witch to grab her. To do something. I'm gonna die on the hill that I think he's a Skrull.
I kind of think
Hayward?
he is too.
Yes.
I think he might not have been at the beginning of the show, because like he was way nicer to Monica at the beginning of the show, and then
that
also
just seems like a movie thing though. Like it's always the nice guy that at the start, I'm nice and supportive, and then it turns around and he's.
But the thing is,
terrible.
like he's really nice at the beginning, and then he shows up at the S.W.O.R.D base, and then he's like, I got to go back to headquarters, and he leaves, and then he's right back again. Which was just weird. And then he had the whole thing about the footage where he was like, oh, I just got approval from headquarters to show you this footage. But he's the director. Like, what's the approval process about for the director of S.W.O.R.D to show S.W.O.R D personnel footage? You know, I don't know. There's just been things that don't add up about him.
I will say I really like his line of like, you don't know what it was like for these past 5 years. Like I don't get to be an optimist anymore. I was like, oh, that's like an interesting dynamic to see someone who they were friends. How did this person change over 5 years while you didn't? You got to miss all that nightmare stuff.
But then he pulled
I liked that
terrible line about her mother.
Oh yeah, he's awful.
Like,
he's awful.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I just like the dynamic.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say whatever is with Hayward. Hayward wants to stop her.
Yeah,
like he's afraid of her and wants her dead, essentially. Like, and that's what makes me think that he's something else. He's not just some guy.
Yeah, it's interesting because she's an Avenger, right? Like she saved the universe essentially, and people would know that, and you would think that the director of S.W.O.R.D would realize that and think that, okay, maybe she's going off tangent a little bit, but she did do all of these good things at one point in her life. And so I don't know if he's a Skrull. I wouldn't be surprised, but I kind of feel he's just like Agnes, a hand person of whoever is running this, whether it be Ralph, whether it be Nightmare or Mephisto, or whoever is the ultimate bad at the end, like the mysterious dude, that he's just kind of like the pawn on the outside while Agnes is the pawn on the inside. And whoever is running this has hands on both sides. And maybe it is the Skrulls. I mean, maybe whoever is running it is running this side of the Skrulls. Maybe.
Well, I feel like we have to do this. We need to do this every week at this point. So, Ashton, I think it's time to talk about your Ralph theory and see what Jake and Brian think.
So I have this theory about so I think Agnes is Agatha Harkness, because it's just there's so many things that point that way. And then my theory is that Ralph is her cat, that she's turned into a person because she needs to have a husband in like the earlier decades, or she would have been suspicious. So, and Agatha Harkness in the comics always has this black cat. And so I think maybe that's why she's been keeping him away from everyone, because he can't talk or do human things, but he just looks like a human.
Well, he hasn't been mentioned in a while. And
to be clear, I don't actually think that's going to happen, but if it does, I'm going to be very thrilled.
Rooftops, yeah. And Agnes was dressed as a witch, which is interesting.
Also, this is the first time we've seen her without that like pendant.
Yeah.
You know,
I keep forgetting about the pendant to even look at it. But also in the opening credits, her butt said naughty.
Yeah.
Like it's written on her butt. And I was like, okay, that could have said anything.
She's got to be one of two things. Either she is who we all think she is, which is Agatha Harkness, or she's absolutely no one and they're just toying with us knowing that we think it's Agatha Harkness. It's one of those two.
And them not putting the ID card on her thing on the bulletin board, and like she's the only one that doesn't have a known identity, is just such a obviously they want us to think that she's someone important, you know, or there's something to that character beyond just another one of the town, you know, like Westview people.
We also talked about the idea that she might be the person from witness protection that they talked about
the whole
at the very beginning.
Hi, Jill.
Or maybe the witness protection person is made up and that's actually Vision that they're trying to get out.
Who was it? Hayward that talked about a witness protection? Who was that?
That was Jimmy.
Which, by the way, he got to be a boss this episode.
Yeah.
Good for Jimmy.
Where's his series? I need a Jimmy Woo series right now. Like
that the people that threw out the idea of an X-Files style, like Darcy and Jimmy Woo going and just like looking into weird phenomena.
But he has to do like a magic trick in every episode.
I want an episode of the What If series to be what if like Stephen Strange disappears and they end up making Jimmy Woo Sorcerer Supreme, but he actually only knows like magic tricks.
You're the second greatest sorcerer here. And it's like, a dove.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Tilda Swinton's like, how did you do that?
I think also this episode to me showed me that they're not afraid to make something dark and scary. And it really gets me that much more excited for Multiverse of Madness, because I mean, you have a scary horror director now directing that movie, and this is Disney Plus. Like this is accessible to kids. I mean, you're going to have to take your kid to the movie and stuff. It's going to have a PG-13 rating when you go and see the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm sitting here going like, this could be really dark, that next movie, especially that commercial. The kid turning into...
Let's talk about the commercial, because that was messed up.
That was a weird one.
I mean, the thing that I noticed with the commercial is when the shark jumped out of the water and started talking to the kid, he said, what did he say? I wrote it down. I'm snacking on your magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm.
you sneaky son of a gun. I was
So
like,
is-
go ahead.
Is there a character in the comics that feeds off of magical energy or anything like that?
Well,
I mean,
go ahead, Brian.
go ahead. No,
No,
go
I,
ahead.
I was going to say, you can. I mean, Mephisto essentially feeds off of souls.
Mm.
I think to me, this episode to me made it clear that someone is trying to take her powers, because with that line, the snacking on yo magic, and the theme song to the show, there were both things in there about like draining someone's magic, taking someone's power. So I'm like, whoever it is trying to probably like max out her power and make it as their own, or learn how to use her powers. That's what I got out of this episode.
Yeah.
Is that someone wants that.
I feel like we talked about the commercial maybe just being like the idea that magic is literally keeping Vision and I guess Pietro now alive. So without the magic, they would be dead. But that's a very simplified way of looking at what the commercial meant.
And I'm trying to think of like just what did the rest of the commercial mean, where the starving person like can't get to what they need and they just starve to death?
I saw it as the shark being the big bad, whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
is there any just Shark Man in Marvel? Is there a King Shark of the Marvel universe?
There is in Harley Quinn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
He's a treasure.
I saw the kid person, whoever you want to call it, that drained as the people in the town, and over time they were losing their life force because they were essentially inside this hex, being controlled, and over time they're slowly starting to lose themselves, and whatever the snack may have been to them inside the hex, they can't get to it, and they're eventually going to die at some point. And it's interesting though, because we've had these conversations about the past commercials relating back to the Infinity Stones. How does this really relate to the Infinity Stones, like the other ones have? Or maybe
I would say power. Taking their power.
Power Stone. That's a good call. Which we haven't seen the Power Stone yet.
Power. What do you mean? It's the Guardians of the Galaxy one.
In a commercial.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
Because I mean, the thing that I kept going, oh, they drained his soul, but it's like, no, that's a little weird. And the Power Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy, when they show it being used, disintegrates the bodies and like show like that type thing. So that's what I took it as. I mean, it could honestly mean nothing.
Well, the yogurt flavor was strawberry, so that would be the Power Stone.
Maybe the Power Stone tastes like strawberries. I don't know.
That's what magic tastes like.
Yeah. So I don't know. This one made me kind of go, okay, the stone thing might be a reach in this one with this episode, but
we haven't talked much about the stones in the commercials. We've been talking more about like her family and her past trauma. So
yeah, that's
maybe
Kev Coffee just said in the chat. Don't think it's about the stones, but Wanda's past.
Yeah, did especially with Pietro in this episode, there was something about it. Did the shark call him bro or something that made me think, okay, the kid on the desert island is Pietro, and he can't get to the magic, and he dies. So maybe it's something about like Wanda thinking about, I could have brought him back. I could have brought my real brother back, and she didn't, or she didn't know how at the time, or something like that.
I don't know.
I mean, we've seen so far, they've really been hitting the nail on the head about like, you can't bring someone back to life. They've been saying that a lot, and that would make sense because Pietro was very heavily involved in the episode. And the commercial was literally someone dying on a beach. It's very I mean, again, these commercials could mean nothing. They could literally they could be totally toying with us, but it's one of a few things. And being that Pietro was so heavily involved in this episode, I would not vote against that.
Well, it's interesting. I was wondering when Vision breaks through the barrier, I was like, he's going to step through and just like turn to dust or like become the gray head crushed version, just fall apart. But he didn't do that. Like he was being ripped apart because he was trying, it was whatever it was, Wanda or the Hex, whatever, is trying to pull him back in and it was ripping him apart. So I was surprised that he got out of the Hex and was still alive.
Well, we don't know. I mean, he was dead on the ground still.
Eventually.
Yeah, but like he was already on the ground flat when the thing went over him. So
but I was thinking,
he like recreated him is what, or when she expanded the Hex.
Yeah.
But we've already seen a couple of times with Monica when she left the Hex and when they pulled the rope back from the beekeeper thing that the Hex isn't creating illusions that are overlaying people. It's actually changing like them physically.
Reality, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that was kind of what I was thinking with Vision was that the thing that Wanda saw where she saw him as like dead with the crushed head and everything was not her like seeing what was actually there beneath the illusion so much as her just having like a flashback of what should be there. You know, and so with him leaving the Hex, he would still look like he looked inside.
And she did say in a previous episode that like we can't leave Westview. This is where we have to stay. So whatever the Hex is keeping him alive. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that if whatever was in the Hex wasn't trying to forcibly pull him back in, could he have just walked off and been like, well, I'm Vision and I'm alive again?
I mean, maybe that's what the big bad is after, is trying to get her to put more and more of her magic into recreating Vision, because in the process she would be recreating the Mind Stone if she does it fully.
Or maybe this is kind of a S.W.O.R.D thing gone wrong, where they were like, we're trying to rebuild Vision and we can't. So they somehow manipulated Wanda into stealing him. That seems like a lot for Hayward to figure out, but
my thing is that left me kind of going, was if S.W.O.R.D really wanted Vision, why didn't they try to help him like at all when he was coming out? Like it seemed like an effort to like be like, no, like let this play out, because they literally handcuffed Darcy and she was screaming, help him, and no one was moving. And then only when the Hex started growing did they go like, oh crap, and like take off
and just leave Darcy behind.
Yeah, which I love that the people that handcuffed Darcy turned into clowns.
Yeah.
So
the circus is a very fun.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to see what Darcy is in this reality.
I'm telling you, I watch. She's going to be one of those waitresses from
That's
Two
funny.
Broke Girls.
What do you think she found on the computer? Because she found like a file called Cataracts or something, and that was kind of, she was like, Hayward, you son of a bitch, and then she went off and got hexed. So
I think whatever Hayward's plan was on the file. So
Darcy knows it, and now she's hexed, so she doesn't really know it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Darcy will be, because since she was handcuffed to a car when she went into the Hex, maybe she's going to be in some like Houdini escape thing in the carnival, and have to like get out of it. That'll be like a dramatic thing, you know.
Well, the handcuffs still exist in this other reality, so she might be in jail or like she might be arrested or something.
Decaf coffee said cataract eyes equals vision. She said, oh no.
Maybe she's one of those old-fashioned
I like that
waitresses.
The ornament.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah. I was still going with the car thing.
I was going with like a Sonic waitress where she's bringing stuff to cars, but turned her into a hood ornament. That's pretty.
I missed this if she did.
Yeah, I saw.
Oh yeah, I think she did.
Okay.
So Cataract maybe is the code name of the file of all their secret plans of what to do with Vision's body afterwards, to maybe try to rebuild him or turn him into a weapon, which he
Cataracts
specifically
make you blind. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other question, was like, how did Wanda know where to find Vision's body? You know, like
someone had to tell. Yeah, especially like, well, it wasn't 5 years later for her, but
Well, but it was though, because
She got snapped.
Did she?
Yeah.
She got
Oh.
and they're saying this takes place 3 weeks
Okay.
after Endgame, after those events too. So
Gotcha.
whatever happened in that timeline. I have a crazy thing. What if Wanda never took Vision's body? And
Yeah, you did not get a clear view of that security.
And what if the file is in fact Vision's body somewhere, and they're trying to rebuild either Vision or possibly Ultron? And what if the Vision that we see, the reason why he was falling apart is because he can only exist inside the hex. He steps out, he dies, he doesn't exist anymore because he's not real.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
I had a feeling that video that they showed was maybe fabricated.
Fabricated or just a small chunk of it or something, but I have a feeling that there's something else going on with that event that took place. Because also you have to wonder, why would he have a tracking device in him? Why would they be tracking just that person or that thing, that character inside the hex? And then you go back to that videotape and you're like, okay, well, how do they connect?
Thematically, I like that too. Just of like, we're talking about altering reality and stuff, and you like, we're living in an age where you can alter video footage and all that. So I think that's a fun thing to play with in this story.
And Vision,
I think that he didn't have a tracker on him, did he? It was just that like they were tracking the
vibranium decay,
like the radioactive decay of vibranium, because it's the only vibranium in there, so it's an easy thing to pinpoint.
That's a good call too.
S.W.O.R.D is up to some.
Hayward is up.
Hayward definitely is up to something, but they have more of a hand in this than I think we know. In some capacity.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're making weapons. They basically said so. So it makes sense that they're trying to, like, I do think that Wanda has motivation to steal Vision. So if it turns out that, that's not doctored, I'm like, well, she didn't want her husband to become a weapon because he didn't want that. So that's why she was taking him.
Mm-hmm. Or at least stopping them from doing whatever they were doing.
Right. And that was probably part of the manipulation of like, just get Vision and then bring him here and I'll help you out. And then they make the hex or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost think that S.W.O.R.D used him as a lure. Like, kind of like he was probably somewhere else. They grabbed him and was like, hey, they're turning him into a weapon. And she's like, hell no. And goes and grabs him maybe to get him out of there. But that was their plan, hoping she would do that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Let's see. We've talked about almost everything I wrote down. Something we haven't discussed yet is just there were some weird, I don't know if this was on purpose or not. I assume it was, but there's some weird things that this episode wasn't super 90s. In fact, there were things like The Incredibles up on the marquee where I was like, that's not a 90s movie. Mm-hmm. That is Wanda losing control. The kids seemed to have autonomy. Like they're able to do whatever they want. They're talking to the camera. They're breaking the fourth wall. They seem to know they're in a show.
They're cursing.
She's lost control of her children.
Kick ass.
Which was
a great
reference, like just so brilliant too.
And one of the kids had a Minecraft hat beanie on.
That.
And Minecraft wasn't around till like 2000.
But I also think that it might not be so much a lack of control. I also thought it could be a fun way to show that, I don't know, at my age, I start to not really distinguish the late 90s from the 2000s or even the 2010s. Like that all kind of bleeds together for me. So she's like, I'm making a 90s show now, but not quite. It's like her best attempt at it.
And it's like she said, either the beginning of this episode or the last episode, like she doesn't care about hiding her powers anymore. Like she's tired of hiding herself. Maybe that also has to do with the setting as well.
Yeah, maybe she's just like, screw it.
Yeah, and the whole movie thing, I think, was just a cool, and we'll never know this, but maybe those are her two favorite movies. Team of superhero, family superhero team, and then you have the twins who fool their parents, essentially, right?
That's a great point.
It could be an interesting thing for the character of Wanda, where now that she has kids, she's a little bit more free. She's not caring so much, and she wants to be herself alongside her husband and her kids.
I think it was more.
People say that this was supposed to be the 2000s because Malcolm in the Middle was from 2000 to 2006.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she just didn't see
the week.
Maybe she just didn't.
80s, 90s.
Maybe she just didn't really see much 90s television. You know, like if this is like the earlier episodes are the sort of things that she saw when she was still in Sokovia, you know, because it was like out of date. And then later she's actually seeing things that are current, you know. I don't know.
I love that we can watch this show for 6 episodes and still have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, have so many, well, I don't know, sort of statements.
Yeah.
What
Like,
do you
literally.
Well, I'm curious, Brian and Jake, what do you guys think about a secret 10th episode?
I would love it. You could give me a secret 20 and I'd be so happy.
I think that there is, because 9 episodes is a weird number of episodes. I mean, granted, it's just like, well, I mean, it could literally just be like we just needed 9 episodes to tell it. But like, it's a very weird, uncharacteristic TV show number. Like, we're gonna have 9 episodes.
I could see that there's not essentially a secret 10, but maybe the 9th is double the length.
Sure.
Where it's like an extra long finale, and it really is 9 episodes, but it feels like 10 because it's an hour long or like an hour and 10 minutes or something.
Well, that's something that TV shows.
It was like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
That they back to back. So
I mean, that's something that shows do all the time, where they say, "Yeah, the Office has 24 episodes this season, but really it's 22, and 2 of them are long."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's just another sitcom thing. It could work. They
could do without the like 15 minutes of credits at the end. That
yeah. It's always like
they start rolling at like 7:41. I'm like, you have 7 minutes of television left to tell.
Yeah.
Like, I got used to that in The Mandalorian, where I was like, how long is this episode? 50 minutes? Okay, so it's really 45. Okay.
Every time it gets to the credits, though, I have to like scan through the credits and make sure there's not an after credit scene. Because every time I'm like, this time, maybe it's this time that they're gonna do it. There's more.
I keep waiting for a voice or something to give a clue, and nothing.
Just someone going, "It's Mephisto."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, like, this is what's going on, and it's like, you're like, oh, okay, thank you. That's what I needed. That's what I was looking for. But
there's one other thing we didn't. There was one other thing we didn't point out earlier when we were talking about Quicksilver. He's the only person in the opening credits where it says Pietro Maximoff as himself. Everyone else is introduced as Wanda Maximoff, the Vision, and Pietro Maximoff as himself, which is a little bit weird. I mean, maybe that's just a TV tropey sort of thing. But
it partially could be, but that is interesting.
I mean, he came into the show as Pietro, so
I think it's almost getting to a point where they're like shoving him in your face enough to be like, this is really him. Like, they're trying to like make you feel like, look, it's really him, and everyone's just kind of like,
yeah,
no, it's not.
Just being like, no, trust us. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's another reason. That's another thing why I'm like, I don't think he's real. I think he's literally just being used to try to get whatever she can. Because correct me if I'm wrong. At one point, she really asked, like, "Have you been here the whole time?" or something like that, and he's just like, "Next question."
I kind of feel like
he deflects constantly.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good theory that he might just be like a creation of the Hex. I think if he isn't a creation of the Hex, I think he's Pietro pulled from another like multiverse dimension and then like overlaid with MCU memories that aren't really his.
Yeah, because another thing that makes me think of that is when he goes like, "Well, your husband can't die twice," and then she just launches him, and it's like,
yeah.
Like, and she's in the classic costume when she does that, and that's a total geek moment right there. Like,
oh yeah.
So I'm just like,
literally launches him into a little fake graveyard.
So I'm just like, yeah, I was just sitting there going like, I mean, yeah, I get. I mean, that person has to be kind of ballsy to say something like that to her. Because we know every single time someone's brought something up like that, she attacks, and she definitely did. She literally launched him. So yeah, I don't know.
I do like that they had Quicksilver in the dialogue actually say, "Well, you were always the empathetic twin," like because he is kind of a jerk most of the time in the comics in comparison, and Wanda's kind of like the one that has a heart. Quicksilver just kind of like is a good guy if like it's convenient, basically.
Yeah. He just does whatever he kind of like wants. Like he's like, sweet, I have superpowers. Like that type of person. Everyone, you always know one person that would be like that.
We didn't talk about this, but I did love that line.
That was like the best
The best
episode.
Because she went yours.
Yeah, she's like,
yeah.
It is interesting though, because if he is pulled from a different universe, the Quicksilver in the X-Men universe, he was raised in the US. So it is an interesting point to make from his end, because he has her Quicksilver's memories, but if he is actually himself, his sister in his universe didn't have an accent. And so it's kind of like both sides for him, if that is the case for him, if he is in fact that Quicksilver or that.
So now that we've had a full episode with him, do we think that this is like, the whatever is manipulating this was like, I'll bring Quicksilver in, but for whatever reason couldn't bring the MCU one in, and like went into the multiverse and was like, this likeness, that'll work.
I just think it's convenient. It's like a funny, like, hey, look at this is the Fox Quicksilver and we're using it. But then like at the end of this series, he's not going to even be a part of it anymore.
You don't think it's anything more than that? Like, you don't think that this is hinting to the multiverse side of things?
No.
Do you think we'll see the other actor as Pietro in episodes?
I think you might get something very quick, but that's it. Like very quick. Like maybe a flashback or something like that, where it's
I do like this. Like
that was amazing. Hit the flashback,
But it was nice seeing him there. But also, he did not die like a chump. He died saving 3 lives or 2 lives.
Well, but for him, like as kind of a guy that doesn't really care that much about other people, he might have kind of considered that dying like
regretting that.
Yeah, because
he has kind of that attitude where he might think of it like that.
Or or that could have been the X-Men Pietro talking about the MCU Pietro. Like, he could just be saying but he could literally be meaning he died like a chump in the street. And he could be talking about that version rather than just himself. And he could, be kind of teetering. If he is that character, he could be teetering between the both of them as he's talking to Wanda, because even she is confused as to what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I get the feeling that whatever happened with Pietro, I don't think that it was Wanda doing it on purpose. Like, because it seems like whatever is pulling the strings, if it's Mephisto or whatever, it keeps like giving Wanda what she wants, even if it's not what she would really want if she actually was asked.
Yep.
And so, because it was that moment where she was like, oh yeah, I have a twin, he's far away, and that makes me sad. And then it's like, okay, so you want Pietro here. Hits the button, and then Pietro gets pulled from wherever he was at, And,
I thought that maybe it was the kids that made him appear to make Wanda happy.
Yeah, because it was also one of those things where she had a moment where she was like, oh, would it be nice if we had kids? And then bam, hit the button and she's pregnant.
Hit the baby button, quick.
Yeah. Get to give Wanda what she wants, monkey's paw sort of button. Like,
I'm just wondering if we're gonna have another holiday type episode, like if they're gonna go to Thanksgiving or maybe Christmas or something like that. If they're going to do another type of holiday, or if it was just like a quick little thing. Because I mean, like, I'm thinking like maybe they do like a holiday because it's your family coming together type thing, like, and I mean where they're at, I mean maybe not literally, but it's like October, end of October, so you do have holiday season coming up. So I'm wondering if that will play into some bit.
But is it actually October in the real world?
Probably not.
That's an interesting point. Like when is all of this taking place?
Yeah.
I don't know if we know. if we do, it's something like that someone must have, pointed out there was a tiny detail, because I don't remember them saying anything about it.
It all
Well,
seems like just a matter of days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
from the
like
images on IMDb, I don't know about another holiday, but it looks like maybe the next TV show is either something like The Office or Modern Family.
Modern Family, yeah.
Or what I was thinking, because they do have the talking head scenes. But
Either way, it seems like they're more inclined to do more of that, like breaking the fourth wall type thing, which is ironic because when everyone was like, "Oh, is Deadpool gonna be able to do it?" Well, clearly they're not afraid to do it. In some capacity. So I'm curious to see how much further that goes.
At this point, I think they feel pretty comfortable taking risks. They're like,
Mhm.
we know you nerds will see it.
And you'll love it, and you'll want more.
we'll eat it up.
Yeah. Who knows? Like, honestly, like I said, it's still six. The fact that it's 6 episodes in still, and you still have no idea what is going on, is incredible, and honestly one of the best parts. And I think that the fact that they are not doing where they just dump the whole thing at one time is genius.
I mean, I'm so glad. I was terrified they were going to do that from The Mandalorian, because then that would mean like, oh God, we got to sit down and just like binge it all and then do so much. But like, isn't this better? Just getting like, we watch an episode and then we sit and we do this.
We
and
talk about it.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
If we just talk about it for days on end, and then we get a new episode.
I love Stranger Things, but like,
yeah,
I watch it and I'm like, well, that was a fun weekend.
100%.
And then you're like, did you see Stranger Things? It was cool, right?
100%.
Great.
Yeah.
It's literally like you're sitting like, oh, why didn't they give us it all at one time? And then you're like, yeah, I guess it was still smart though. I guess fine. So, yeah, another good one.
Do we have any thoughts for the next episode? Predictions, expectations?
I've learned to stop doing that with this show.
Hey, I got my prediction right this week. So
About the candy.
That's the only bold prediction I made. And
I mean, I really hope we see the astrophysicist, whoever it may be.
Oh, it has to be at this point. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be, but that's if I had to put money on something happening, we're finally going to meet that person next.
I think probably I'll just go out on a limb and say by the middle towards the end of the next episode, we'll be done with the whole sitcom thing. Everything is going to break, and we're just going to get the next couple episodes. And then it's going to be a story, whether the hex is breaking or whether people are trapped inside and figure things out inside the hex. I think that the storyline will officially end, and we'll figure out kind of what is really happening. Because I feel like leaving it just for the last episode would be a little strange. And there's no build up to it, whether it's just the last 5 minutes or something. But I do think that the hex will probably break or expand to a point where everybody's involved in the next episode.
Especially if there is some like shadowy antagonist that we haven't seen yet. We have to see them soon, or they're running out of time to actually have
it's
them
a
on screen.
It's a Mandalorian thing, right? You have Moff Gideon. He was in the end of
the last 2 episodes, barely.
Yeah,
barely.
he was in the end of the second to last one. Then he was in the end of the last one. They could be doing a very similar thing in this, where we kind of get the big bad either mentioned or shown up, and then the finale is the big finale where we kind of get everything.
I like where I was going to say I like where you're going with that, because I bet you they'll since we have 3, they'll drop the aerospace engineer. That'll be the big of next one, and then the final 2 will be the villain, because you don't want to upstage whoever this huge person may be coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
unless
think this
they are the villain?
Can you imagine?
Somehow.
It's just like,
Dr. Doom and no one
Yeah.
bats an eye. Do you think that this is a show that'll have a second season, or is it like this kind of feels like a one and done concept? But
I think its second season is Doctor Strange 2.
it's a prequel almost in a way. It's almost like a prequel to
the prologue. What Multiverse Madness is.
Yeah.
And honestly, that makes me think more than anything that Pietro is Pietro from another multiverse dimension, just because it is supposed to be leading into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
And Spider-Man
So-
3 too. I mean, that could very well be played into that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if anyone is not afraid to just like do as much as they possibly can on one season and make it great to make other things work, Disney has no problem, and Marvel, doing that. Because like, I mean, I could see this being a one-time thing. Loki's already got 2 seasons, maybe. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is probably going to be a one and done type thing. Set up that story. There's only 6 episodes, like a mini series. I think they'll do whatever they want to make their stories better. And if this gives them that, then why not?
I really like the way that Disney Plus has handled some of this stuff with like in Star Wars as well, where the Mandalorian's like, yeah, this will be ongoing. Ahsoka, that's a one-time thing. Kenobi, one-time season. Like it's just whatever the storyteller wants.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
I think it's really cool because it's like they're not afraid to start a project and finish it when the creator of the project says it's done. They don't have to do as many series as will, get viewers.
Well, we'll see. Everyone loves WandaVision. It's like they might be like, well, how do we do this again? But I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to milk it for the money. If anything, they're going to use it as a way to push their stories more and get you more invested, so that way they can do other things with what they have in mind.
I think they're thinking more in like a franchise way of like, okay, now we know people will watch Star Wars on TV, and now we know people will watch the MCU on TV. So what do we do to keep growing that?
Yeah, anything Marvel, MCU, Star Wars, obviously it's going to do great on Disney Plus.
Well, and it's like with this sort of comic book model where they do crossovers and have characters show up in other shows. They don't really need to do season 2s of things that they don't have more of the same story for, because like anything that Wanda shows up in now is kind of a sequel to WandaVision, because you're seeing what she does after this show ends, they just take the characters and put them into other things that they were doing afterwards, and then the story continues from there.
Yeah, it's more like...
Go ahead, Brian.
I would say it's more like it's more important to them to push the narrative than anything else. It's, I mean, progressing this story that's been planned out for years and years and years. And I think that's one of the most brilliant parts, is that we don't even know how many years they have already planned out. They could have, when they started it, they had 10 years planned out. So, I mean, like, it's incredible the way they think of these things.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if there's one thing this show has done specifically, because we didn't know what was going to happen after Endgame, what characters we were going to see. Obviously, they've opened the floodgates for a lot, but this has proven that for the next however long, Wanda is going to be around for a very long time. She's not going anywhere.
Good
character. People are loving what this character is doing. And we are, after WandaVision ends, whatever happens, she's obviously in Doctor Strange 2, but that is definitely not going to be the end of her story, because she is now up there as, for me anyway, a favorite. I think that she is probably the most powerful of the MCU, and this episode proved it for what she's doing right now.
And they even made sure to they were like, she held off Thanos. She could have beaten Thanos if it hadn't been for
It's her right now. It's her and Captain Marvel are competing for the belt. The most powerful in the MCU. But I think that this show is proving that no one should ever mess with her. Period.
And Elizabeth Olsen is just fantastic.
Like I said earlier.
Well, and she likes the character too. Like, there's been interviews where she talks about how much she likes the character of Scarlet Witch, and she talks about House of M and stuff. And it's just cool that that studios are picking up people that are actually fans of the characters that they're going to play.
Well, she's a very complex character. She's not your basic, like, this person has powers, they can do this. It's like she has a full complex story that, I mean, you want your actor to love the character as much as the fans do outside of the stories in the movies and the comic books. So, I mean, the fact that right now she's the face of the MCU.
And what's funny from what you're saying, we haven't even seen her full ability. We have not even close to seeing what she can really do, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up. So
one other Easter egg that I remember
go for
reading about, and it was the flashback of them going trick or treating.
Oh, the fish.
They get the
oh
fish.
yeah.
Wanda is dressed as Black Widow, and Pietro is dressed as Nick Fury.
From the comics again, right?
So good. Yeah, so good.
Which okay, well now you made me think of something else. Were those flashbacks also part of the show? Like did the people on the outside A see that? And B, did Wanda and Pietro see that? Because she was like, I remember that differently. But like the whole the flashback side of things.
I think it was part of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Part of it.
Yeah.
But like you said, their memories are different.
Right.
And why? What's the reasoning behind? Like in both times they talked about things like the very beginning when they had mentioned something, and then in the flashback with the Halloween stuff, they both were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that differently," or "That's not what I remember." And so, why is that?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well, because we've gotten stuff like the intros having like the young Vision, which was hilarious.
Oh my god!
And I assume that was something that the S.W.O.R.D people saw on their old timey television. So yeah, I would assume that the flashbacks are also like part of the show.
I imagine anything and everything that we see for the most part is inside that bubble can be seen on the CCTV.
With maybe the exception of the times when the aspect ratio changes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because she does cut sometimes. Or something cuts. Which like that again, like the stuff about the Vision baby photos is making me think that the whatever is controlling this might not have a full understanding of everyone and everything inside. And so they're like maybe it's not Wanda making all of these opening credits scenes, and maybe it's something else that's going like, okay, now we're going to recreate the Growing Pains intro, and we'll just imagine what Vision looked like as a baby, right? And it like maybe it doesn't quite know what Vision is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was made.
Or it was just funny. It was funny.
If there's patently false.
If there's something that comes from baby, they need to make a baby Vision pop. It would sell.
Molly, okay, is it baby Vision or baby Yoda?
Don't make me choose.
Oh, come on, you know it's baby Yoda. Don't act like that.
Give her all the babies. All the
I don't think Molly saw baby Vision and was like, "Oh, I seem like an oh."
Wow, they went there.
It's like when you see one, you're just like, "Oh, cute." Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, your baby's super cute.
All babies are adorable when they're born.
Oh man.
Okay, but we should wrap up because I'm hungry.
That's fair.
So, Jake, Brian, and Molly, why don't you plug your stuff?
I'm on social anywhere. Qui-Gon Jake, 2 N's because someone else took it before I did. Obviously, Schmodown POV with these peeps and Jill. I don't know. I can't get my fingers right. These two. Wrong way still. Obviously, also Apocalypse Movies weekly with Brian, talking movies, doing all kinds of fun things over there. And yeah, so.
You can find me B of Alcino on Twitter. Good luck spelling my last name. And yeah, anywhere that Jake and Molly are, you can pretty much find me.
I'm also
Star Wars Explained.
Oh. Yeah, I'm also there. She is.
I'll throw Jill up for this part of the plug.
Yeah, I'm also on POV, and yeah, I have a Schmodown coming up on Friday. Next Friday.
It's live, people. Watch it.
It's live. Oh God.
Yeah, that's a good. We're gonna delay next week's. We're gonna delay next week's Explain It to Me to the Saturday because Molly's gonna have too much going on.
Yeah, I literally cannot think about WandaVision from now on until after
so keep spoilers away, people. Keep spoilers away.
And you're all doing your draft tomorrow.
Tonight.
Actually,
tonight, yeah, like in an hour and a half. That's right.
In an hour and a half, go ahead and go over
That's
to
what I meant.
We're drafting our factions for the year.
Yeah, Molly, you don't have that much time. You should order some Taco Bell.
I've got some chicken in the crock pot. Yes.
Ashton, where can people find you?
I've got big plans for my draft. I'm excited.
Oh.
Ashton, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm on Twitch at Yeti Boatman, which is my Twitch handle, and I stream usually on Tuesdays and sometimes on Mondays.
And you can find us at our Star Wars channel, Star Wars Explained, that I think everyone already knows about. So yeah, that'll be it. That's it for today's episode. We'll be back again next Saturday to talk about episode 7. And I'll be back here on Monday to stream some more Lego building. I started building the grand piano, and it's super cool so far. But that's it for today. Thank you all for hanging out. And I still, like, by default want to say may the force be with you. So may the force be with you.